So after 60 years of being at the helm of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett finally retires. Okay. Now, we saw this coming because so many years ago, the man announced that he was going to step down. Now, it took many years after that announcement. And now, at a really, 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 really ripe age of 95 years of age, he's stepping down. Now, I think that's been 60 years as a CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. For the first time in 60 years, we're going to see somebody else's name as CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. Now, that's all good and fine, right? Congratulations to him. He's had a really tremendous run. Now, that got me curious on one thing. I had to look up the longest serving CEOs in their roles, right? Now, just for context, today, most CEOs today, the average is about 10 years, right? They spend about 10 years on their roles or in their positions. Now, founders, CEOs are a little different because typically they are the ones with the vision. It's their baby. So they basically know what direction to go. And most investors love to have founders, CEOs to be in place because a new CEO can come in with their own direction, their own vision, but the founder's vision is always the best because they understand why they started and where they're trying to go. So I looked up a couple of names, and interestingly, there are quite some CEOs that have been in their positions for longer, well, not longer than Buffett, but for a very long time. Like if you look at someone like Leslie Wexner, the founder, I think he was the founder of L Brands. He was there for 50 plus years. He was CEO for 60 plus, 50 plus years. Then again, you know, he's the founder CEO. Then you had Alan Miller from Universal Health Services for 40 plus years. And of course, you had Steven Schwarzman for 35 plus years. Now, Warren Buffett, on the other hand, yes, he didn't found Berkshire Hathaway, right? But to a degree, you can say he founded the company because when he bought himself into the company and took over, it was a textile company. So he had to diversify it and go different directions. So we'll give him the credit for founder, CEO. And he was there for 60 years. That's a long time. But then again, the number speaks for itself because he's taken that company from nothing to being a trillion plus dollar company. But the big question that when I saw this and I asked myself is, did he stay on too long? Now, what does too long mean anyway? Because one thing we know for sure is shareholders, our board of directors actually, and shareholders to an extent, they are very impatient, right? If you're not producing results, they will not hesitate to get you out. But one thing we also know is that shareholders and board of directors tend to favor founder CEOs a lot because, history shows that unless the founder CEO is willing to step down on their own, like Jeff Bezos did, Warren Buffett is doing right now, or the long list of people in China or whatever stepping down for different reasons. I'm not going to get into that, but when you look at founder CEOs, right? Unless they're just willing to step down on their own, typically the board prefers those people to stay on. So to me, I don't think it's too long because he took that company from a failing textile company to $1 trillion plus. Now you can criticize that, it could have grown faster because for a very long time, he was very, apprehensive when it comes to technology and crypto and whatever else. But the bottom line is I'm sure every investor has made their money back, right? 10-fold or whatever, depending on when you really got into, Berkshire Hathaway stocks. But did he stay too long? I don't think so. I don't think so because he had a vision and I think he executed on the vision. And what are they sitting on now? Like $358 billion of like just free cash. No other company has that. I know Apple used to have a crazy amount, like a couple of $100 billion in, free cash, or cash reserves. But I don't know what it is right now. But I think the 358 is a record right now. Not too many companies can do that, which means they probably pay out dividends. I would have loved to be on that bandwagon, but it's too expensive for me. I can't get into Berkshire Hathaway. It's like 100 something thousand in the stock. I can't do it. That's too much for me. But I don't think he stayed on too long. Now you can look at the age and say, okay, 95, that's a little too old, but he was a sharp 95-year-old. I mean, I've listened to the man's speeches. Hell, even Charlie Munger, who died or who passed at 99, I've listened to him talk when he was 99, 98. He was pretty sharp. I don't know what those two guys were taking that for them to stay that strong. And I don't want to hear that whole Coke and McDonald's thing that they say they eat every day. I'm not buying that because they own it. They own a huge chunk of it. Berkshire Hathaway owns a huge chunk of Coca-Cola. I think they're the largest shareholders of Coca-Cola, and I think McDonald's too. So that's just promotion. But yeah, I don't think he stayed on too long. I just think because as long as he kept producing results, I know there were years that Berkshire Hathaway took a beating, right? Overall, it's a success because if you got in when he got in, I think he got in, I don't know, like in the 60s. I think he became the CEO of somewhere around the 60s. And I mean, you look at what he's done to it today. Yes, of course, you've had other companies that started way after him, like the Nvidias and Amazon, Microsoft, and Apple. We get all that, and they're more valuable than he is. But we also need to understand that I think Berkshire Hathaway would have been a bigger company, would have been much bigger. I think they probably would have been at a $3-4 trillion market cap today if Warren Buffett was really pro technology, because he was anti technology or anti technology for a while. Like he got on board a little late, right? So, but overall, it's a tremendous company. And yes, to my point, I don't think he stayed on too long. Now, if he was a leader of some country, you say, okay, he held on to power for so long, we get it. Then we'll have a different conversation. But this is a company that he believed only him can really lead it. And he wanted to make sure that a great successor was found. And we'll see. Time will tell if this new person, I can think the new person's name is something, I think Abel something, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll see what this guy, would do, because I think when that was yesterday, when he finally like handed the reins completely, I think the stock fell like 6%. So we'll see. It's normal. A CEO moves or something happens in the company, it takes a little beating. Let's see what a new person does. I hope the selection is actually smart, because we've seen selections be bad before, especially when somebody, steps down. Now, in the case of Amazon, we've seen Andy Jassy come in, and I'm not following the Amazon stocks that much lately. Now, I don't know if it has plateaued or it's making some improvements. I don't know. But it seems to be fine because we're not hearing anything really negative in the news in terms of stock market being down. So it looks like that was a good successor that was chosen. And we hope he did the same thing, because we've seen, I remember when Jack Welch stepped down from GE, and some other guy, I can't remember the other guy's name, came in. It did not work out. It did not work out at all. GE took a beating. GE took a dive. And I think GE has gone through, I don't know, something like 3, 4, 5 CEOs now since Jack Welch, maybe more. I can't keep count anymore. The same thing happened to Starbucks when Schultz, the Schultz guy, Howard Schultz stepped down. You saw what happened. I mean, the first time he stepped down, the new CEO came in, things went bad. He came back in, left again, things went bad again. He came back. Now let's see what's going on with this new guy. So we'll see. We'll see. I believe if he could run it forever, he would. And I also think that if the board of directors or shareholders didn't think he was capable of running it at 95, they would have found a way. But then again, maybe he has voting power. They can get him out. He's I think the 60 years is not bad. Now, to me, he didn't stay too long. I mean, if you ask me overall, based on the results and the numbers and how much gain they've made, right? How much, from the time he's took over to where it is today. I don't think he stayed on too long, but we'll see. We'll see what the successor does. Because if this successor doesn't make like tremendous improvements or try to use the cash wisely, because the $358 billion sitting in cash reserves and make some really strategic investments in business moves, and they're going to start churning, like just pinning up CEOs like crazy. And that is not going to look good because that is how GE went into oblivion. And we're just hoping that that doesn't happen because the man is 95. He can't come back like Howard Schultz does, because Howard Schultz can come back, or just like Bob Iger can come back on Disney when things are not going well. I don't think he's coming back. If the next year or two the stock takes a dive, again, I'm not hoping for that, or I'm not praying for that, but if things don't look good, they'll have to find somebody else to come in because he is not coming back at that age. It's just too much load and too much work, and the age does not support that kind of a move. So we'll see. But congratulations to him. 60 years of just grinding it out, right? I mean, the man has tremendous patience. I don't have that kind of patience. Like the way he built his wealth, I think I saw somewhere that 99% of his wealth was accumulated after the age of 50, I believe. And he started trading since he was 13. So the level of patience and long-term thinking, like he really embodies that quote exactly, the quote of short-term stock market is a voting machine, long-term is a weighing machine. That the level of, I don't think there'll be another person like that, because we live in a generation now where, or the time of the world now where everything, there's no patience for anything. We want to see results so quick. And he's just the last of the dying breed. He's just the last of the Mohicans, I guess. You're not getting that anymore. But congratulations to him, and we'll keep an eye on it and see how that plays out. If the successor was rightfully chosen or was just somebody that fits the mold or fits the bill just on paper, but they can't hold up to it. But we'll see. I hope he succeeds, though. I'm not sitting here thinking about him failing. I don't want him to struggle, but we'll see. Because sometimes when somebody's been at the helm for so long and somebody else comes in, it's difficult to maintain that same. It's difficult to maintain that same pedigree in a sense. So just think about it. So it's just like, replacing Steve Jobs was so hard. I know Tim Cook is doing better in terms of the numbers, but innovation wise, nothing's really happening. Just like, again, I don't want to get into the whole Apple conversation, but Apple is just basically riding on their old products. They haven't created anything new since Steve Jobs passed. So, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I'm sure things will probably work out, but it's worth to keep an eye.